Welcome to the special episode of the Delegation Desk Show. Our special episode today is to answer every founder's biggest questions. Let's get started.
Here's the pattern I see over and over. A founder gets overwhelmed. They hire somebody, maybe a VA or somebody else. They dump tasks. They hope for relief. And instead, they get more questions, missed expectations, inconsistent results, and their confidence just plummets, and more work managing the work. So they conclude delegation doesn't work, or they conclude VAs don't work. But delegation is not broken. The method is broken. Delegation fails when instructions live in your head, when you don't document them. Success is not defined. No system exists. No ownership exists. No signals exist. Real delegation requires structure. At Bottleneck, every single task follows our 4-step process, and this is included within the framework of delegation intelligence. Number 1, name the task. Number 2, confirm the instructions. Number 3, complete and review. And number 4, create a signal that shows it is done. What action needs to occur in order for everybody involved in that particular task to know that particular task has been done. This one change alone eliminates 80% of the chaos founders feel. Delegation is not about getting help. It's about building a system that runs without you. Founders are not bad at delegation. They're trapped. And we happen to have a name for that. We call it the founder's trap. You are the revenue engine. You're the decision maker. You're the firefighter. You're the quality control department. You're the operations manager. All decisions come through you. You become the bottleneck. Traditional virtual assistants were never designed to fix that. They are task doers. You need something different. You need a delegation department, a trained leader, systems, documentation, signals, ownership. That is what delegation intelligence is. It's not outsourcing. It's infrastructure. Let us talk about the founder's trap. And here's how it usually forms. You start the company, you do everything, sales, delivery, support, operations, accounting, hiring, then the business grows. But your role doesn't change. You just add more responsibility on top of the old ones. Soon, you're the decision maker, the escalation point, the project manager, the quality control department. Everything you think about, you become that role. And in the beginning, it's easy because that you don't have a lot of business going on. But as your business builds and things pile up, this is why it's really important to document everything you're doing, so that when it does come time, when you hit this tipping point, you have everything documented. So when you look for a person to take over certain responsibilities that don't really give you the energy that you necessarily need, or maybe it's not focusing high level on revenue generating opportunities. But when these opportunities occur, now you have the confidence knowing that whomever you bring into this role, since you've already documented everything, that they're going to be able to do the things that you're wanting them to do in the way that you're doing them. And it gives you a lot of confidence. And that's a way that you can scale really quickly. So best time to start documenting when you first started your business. Second best time, today, right? Because once you're the decision maker, the escalation point, the project manager, the quality control department, your calendar fills, your energy drops, your patience shrinks. You tell yourself it's temporary, but then all of a sudden years go by, and that's the trap. And delegation alone doesn't fix it. Because if you delegate tasks without changing structure, you just become the manager of chaos. The solution is not hiring faster. The solution is building a delegation system with clear roles, clear ownership, clear documentation, and clear signals. And that's how you escape the founder's trap. All right, in the category corner, the market tells founders to outsource. We tell founders to build a department. There's a massive difference, radical difference. Outsourcing moves work. Delegation intelligence builds infrastructure. A delegation department has an executive assistant who protects your time, a project coordinator who protects your focus, a success manager who protects relationships, documented workflows, defined tasks ownership, completion signals. You can get a bookkeeper. You can Get a customer service representative. There's so many things, administratively speaking, that you can use to as a tool to build your delegation department, and then have one of our dedicated distant assistants run that actual department on your behalf. This is how companies scale without burning the founder. Not by working harder, not by buying more tools, but by changing how work flows. And this is the category that we created, and why the founder's trap is not a personal failure. It's a structural failure. All right, let's talk about burnout. Most people think burnout comes from too much work. It doesn't. It comes from too many open loops, too many things living in your head, too many tasks that you haven't yet delegated, decisions you've postponed, systems that still half exist, process that only you understand. Your brain never rests, even on vacation, even at dinner, even at night. This is why smart founders still burn out, because intelligence does not protect you from mental load. Only systems do. Here's a simple truth. If a task requires you to remember it, it is not delegated. If progress requires you to check in, it's not owned. If completion is unclear, it isn't finished. Burnout fades when clarity increases, and ownership reduces noise. Documentation removes friction, and signals remove anxiety. Delegation intelligence is not about speed. It's about silence, the good kind. The old model says founders should be resilient. They should hustle. The new model says founders should be supported. Delegation intelligence reframes the goal, not productivity, sustainability. A delegation department is built to absorb mental load, not just tasks. Executive assistants absorb time pressure. Project coordinators absorb complexity. Bookkeepers absorb financial stress. Success managers absorb relationship weight. This is not a luxury. This is infrastructure. Burnout is not a weakness. It's a signal that your business outgrew your current systems, and systems can be built. That is what we do, and that is the category. That's the moment most founders realize they don't have systems. They have habits, they have experience, they have memories, but they don't necessarily have repeatable workflows, or it's very old and outdated. So our team also spent time this week helping a client clean up their onboarding process, not by buying new software, not by hiring more people, just by documenting the steps and defining what done looks like. But here's the truth most founders never hear. Software does not create systems. People do. Documentation does. Ownership does. Delegation intelligence is not about tools. It's about structure. The delegation department, by the way, delegation intelligence is our very own category that we designed. And by way of the framework within delegation intelligence, a delegation department builds system intentionally. Executive assistants document recurring tasks, project coordinators organize workflows, success managers protect consistency, bookkeepers standardize financial processes, and each role strengthens the system. Each documented task reduces dependency on the founder. This is how businesses become scalable, not by adding more effort, but removing variability. This is a category. That is the difference. And that is why systems are the foundation of freedom. Delegation intelligence reframes the hiring conversation. The question is not how cheap can we hire? The question should be how reliable can we build the system? Think about that for a second. How reliable can we build the system? The shift changes everything because cheap help focuses on cost. Smart delegation focuses on outcomes, and outcomes are what scale businesses. And let me explain kind of what I mean. When founders hire based on price alone, they are solving the wrong problem, and they're trying to reduce expense. But the real expense in any business is not payroll. The real expense is inconsistency. Missed deadlines, unanswered emails, confused customers, rework, firefighting, Those are hidden costs that quietly drain time. And not a lot of people can attach a number to this time that you lose. They can't attach the amount of energy that you lose. And they can't attach what this does to your reputation. They have a hard time measuring this. And those costs do not show up on a spreadsheet, right? They show up in stress. They show up in late nights. They show up in the founder stepping back into work that should have been handled already. And that is why delegation intelligence focuses on reliability first, not speed, not price, reliability. Because reliable systems create predictable outcomes, and predictable outcomes create trust. Trust creates growth and is what every founder is chasing. So here's the truth. You do not scale a business by hiring cheaper people. You scale a business by building repeatable systems, systems that produce the same result every time, systems that do not depend on memory, and systems that do not depend on constant supervision, systems that protect your standard. That is what delegation department is built to do. Executive assistants protect your time, project coordinators protect your deadlines, success managers protect your client experience, and bookkeepers protect your financial clarity. Each role strengthens the system. Each documented process increases reliability, and reliability is what allows founders to step back without fear. I love it. It's a great feeling. Because when the system is strong, the business keeps moving. And that is why the difference between hiring help and building infrastructure is so appealing. And infrastructure is what creates freedom. That is the category. That is delegation intelligence. All right, here's what's landed on the desk this week. We spoke with a founder who said something I hear all the time. I know I need help, but it's just faster if I do it myself. That sentence sounds efficient, but it hides a bigger problem. Speed without structure creates dependency, and every time the founder steps in to finish a task, the team becomes more dependent on them. Every time the founder fixes a mistake, instead of documenting the process, the system stays weak. And slowly, over time, the business becomes harder to run. And that, I believe, is one of the main reasons why so many founders achieve burnout. It's not because the team is incapable, but because the system never matured. You didn't give it a chance. Well, this week, our team worked with a client to redesign their task communication process, and we introduced a simple requirement. Every completed task must include a signal, a visible confirmation that the work has been done, what action needed to occur in order for everybody involved in that particular task to know that it was done. That one change immediately reduced follow-up questions. Your business is not supposed to feel overwhelming. It's supposed to feel manageable. Not easy, not effortless, but manageable, right? We still like a good challenge. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done this in the first place. You should be able to step away for a few hours and know things will continue moving. You should be able to take a day off without worrying about what might break. You should be able to trust the work that's being handled even when you are not watching. Heck, you want to go on a 2-week vacation, but you can't because the business might crumble? You ever think about that? What if you could do that totally guilt-free, totally stress-free? You should be able to trust that the work is being handled when no one else, when you're not watching or when anyone else is watching. And that's what a healthy business feels like. But when work becomes unpredictable, stress increases. And I felt it lately. And I felt some of that stress lately. And it's my own damn fault. I need to take more responsibility for that. But I'm doing that. And that's specifically why I wanted this episode to be part, because it's real. This is how I feel. This is what's happening. It's happening to me. None of this ever is not happening to me. I'm right there with you in the same shoes that you're wearing. I want you to understand that. However, I have a roadmap. I have a way to get around that, because unpredictability forces your brain to stay on alert. You start checking messages more often. You start double checking work. You start carrying tasks in your head instead of trusting the system. And over time, that mental load becomes exhausting, not because the work is too hard, but because the work is too uncertain. And here's the pattern I see over and over. When deadlines move unexpectedly, founders feel pressure. Simple as that. When communication is inconsistent, Founders feel anxiety. When responsibilities are unclear, founders feel frustration. All of that comes from unpredictability. And here's one thing that I'm feeling a lot of frustration in: sales, right? I don't have a predictable model for sales right now. And that is very frustrating to me. And I need to come up with a solution for that, which I am doing. Therefore, that's the reason I'm talking about this episode. Pick one thing out of your business that you feel frustrated about or that gives you anxiety. That's the area of your business you need to participate in focusing more time on. Again, all of this comes from unpredictability. You need to have predictive models for that. So let us flip that. When work becomes predictable, confidence increases, and you know what is happening. You know who owns the task. You know when it will be completed. You know what to expect next. That certainty creates calm, and calm allows you to lead instead of react. Predictability comes from structure, not from effort. Of course, there's effort in the beginning to build out this predictability model. But once you do that, forecasting in sales becomes a non-issue because you have a predictive model. Working harder does not make work more predictable, right? Hiring more people does not make work more predictable. Buying more software does not make work more predictable. Structure makes work more predictable. Clear steps, clear ownership, clear documentation, clear signals when work is complete, what action needs to occur in order to let everybody know in that particular task that it's been completed. And consistency turns overwhelm into confidence. That's the real power of delegation, not doing less work, but creating a system that makes work more reliable. We call this delegation intelligence. Most founders do not struggle with delegation because they lack discipline. They struggle because their processes are still living in their heads. We need to get it out of here and onto paper, onto digital typing, just video, anything you can do to get it out of your brain. Brain dumps are great. And anything that lives in your head cannot be repeated constantly. You ever answer the same question more than once? But once a task is documented, once ownership is defined, once completion is visible, i.e. a signal, what action needs to occur in order for everybody in that particular task that's responsible in that task knows that it's been completed, delegation becomes predictable. And predictable delegation becomes a skill. That is the real transformation, not doing less work, building a system that allows work to move with you. And that leads us directly into the bigger picture, because delegation is not just about individual tasks. It's about how the entire business operates.
Thank you for watching the Delegation Desk Show. We hope you realize a lot, especially you, a very hardworking founder. Escape the trap, enjoy the freedom. See you next week. Thank you for staying up to this part of the show. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and YouTube. See you next week for another episode of the Delegation Desk Show.